Cashflow Pro offers free money management advice to help you take control of your finances. And now here's your host, personal finance enthusiast and licensed insurance broker, James Barber.
Good evening. Welcome to Oregon Cashflow Pro. My name is James Barber. I'm here to help you maximize your cash flow. How are you guys doing this evening? Nick, hello. Chevy Guy, how's it going? So, Wednesdays, this is our Wealth Care Wednesdays live stream. We're here to answer questions about all things finance. So, we've brought up discussions from stocks to Tesla to infinite banking, dynamic banking, life insurance, all different kinds of life insurance, real estate, mortgages, credit cards, credit card rewards, credit score. So the floor is open. Let me know if you guys can hear me and that I'm not just talking to myself here and that the live stream actually started. It looks like it started. But let's see. Okay, loud and clear. Good, good. I'm not going to make that mistake again. The other day, was it last week or earlier this week? I talked for 16 minutes at the beginning of my live stream in the morning, and I didn't realize that the sound was off. And so, the comment section, if you go back and you look at that, the comment section is hilarious. CDG, how's it going? Good evening. Good evening. Well, I talked about it a little bit last week. If you guys got questions, go ahead and put them in the comment section. But my goal is to help you guys maximize your cash flow. So if there's a way I can help you, fire away. We talked last week about the changes that came into the industry with the IULs. And I'll tell you what, it's been kind of a challenge over the last week. Lazaro, good evening. It's been kind of a challenge over the last week doing illustrations with the new regulations in place. Because essentially, with the old regulations, they allowed us to illustrate just a little bit higher, but it also recognized the value of the bonus options that were offered by the carriers. Now, the new changes don't realize the value of those bonus options, which really reduces the potential of putting those in, even though all of the potential is still there. Like if you get the bonus options, you still have the same potential that we were able to illustrate before. It's just that we can't illustrate it. So it makes it a little bit of a challenge. And the idea behind that was all the carriers that didn't offer bonuses don't like that the bonuses are out there, and it makes their illustrations look bad. In addition to, there was some abuse by a couple of carriers that used bonuses, and they charged massive fees for these bonuses, and then the illustrations basically made it seem like you're always going to get enough gain to overcome the cost of those fees, when that is not the case. I'm talking about Pacific Life in particular, where they would have like up to 7.5% fees every single year just to participate and get their bonus options. Well, if you had a 0% return in the index, you could still go negative 7.5% that year because of all of those fees. So it was really a badly designed policy that they're in lawsuits because of that, and the whole industry had to adjust because of that as well. So some challenges, but I'm pretty happy with my IUL policies. I have 5 IUL policies, 3 of them with National Life, which I just went through my next renewal period. I just renewed again. So this was my 3rd year paying in to my National Life policies. And on my policy, I have an average of just over 10% for each of those 3 years. So in total, an average of 10%. Actually, I should say 2 years, because really the gains are on 2 years worth, because I just made my 3rd payment. So Chevy Guy says he has a question. He has a 457 government retirement plan in addition to a pension. The 457 allows you to do 3 years catch-up. Oh, wow. Is it beneficial to do this now or last 3 years of your career? I would say it's most beneficial to do it whenever you can. So the value in doing that catch-up is not just in putting the money in, but it's getting the compounding growth that is going to happen because of it. So the sooner you get that in, the sooner you can start getting gains on it and start compounding those gains. So I would say more beneficial to the sooner the better would be beneficial. In addition, you're probably not close to retirement, so or maybe you are, but you're likely at a very high point in your career, payment-wise, and it'll help reduce your taxes by quite a bit if you're doing 3 years catch-up. 12 years left, yeah. So, I mean, realistically, if you're already... The only extra advantage to waiting would be if you find yourself in a much higher tax bracket before you retire, when you would catch up in those years and save on those extra taxes. But the difference in tax bracket is not high enough that I think, I mean, you're talking, let's say the difference in tax bracket might be between 24 and 31%. Or let's say 22 and 35% if you hit the top tax bracket. That's a 13% extra savings on your taxes that year if you wait. But if you get 6% return every year for the next 7 years, that's going to more than make up for the difference in what you would save in taxes if you put it off. You follow? So I would say definitely catch up the sooner the better, especially if you have a good plan. Especially if you have a good plan and you're making money in it. The nice thing is the money going into the 457 is pre-tax. Yeah, I assumed it was pre-tax, so the 3-year catch-up would be pre-tax as well. Okay, I was under that assumption, so that's good. If it wasn't, then I would probably, I probably still wouldn't change it. But I was under the assumption it was pre-tax. Which is why I said if you waited, maybe you'd be in a higher tax bracket later, but it wouldn't make up for all the years of compounding that you missed out on. So, that's what I would do. Hope that helps you out. Those are good plans, too. Those are good plans. Oftentimes you'll have a 457. You might also have a 401k available. So there's some teachers that end up having both of those things available. And you can contribute to both of them, to the max. So you're allowed to put in more than just what you would under the 457 alone or the 401k alone. So depending on what type of job you have, you might have the opportunity to add in to a 401k each year as well. Okay, nice. You got both. 457 401k with 4% employer match. Always good to get the match on both, for sure. Always good to get the match. Sounds like you're on track. Doing well. CDG, when do companies announce cap changes, if there will be any? At the end of the year? Wondering about Allianz or National Life. So cap changes can happen at any point throughout the year. But it only affects you when you have your policy anniversary. So if your policy anniversary is now, you'll get whatever the cap rates are now. They can change the rates up and down 20 times between now and your next anniversary. The only one that matters to you is the very next one at your next anniversary, wherever it's at then. So yeah, there's they do changes all the time in response to whatever the environment is out here. And most recently, I mean, everybody just went through another round of reducing the caps or the participation rates with the new regulations that just came in. So we'll see how that ends up playing out. I'm still pretty happy with the index options that Allianz offers because they have some uncapped options. They reduce the participation rate a little bit, but it's still really good. Luckily, I got my policies done earlier this year, so I still get the higher rate up until the next year. And we'll see where they're at next year. But, and here's the nice thing about these IULs. If you're not happy with how they make the changes on the caps, we can always 1035 exchange out of these into another policy. Now there are surrender charges that are there for the early years when you start the policy. But with how we design it, with how I design these policies to minimize those costs, to minimize the agent commission, and to minimize all of the other underlying costs in the policy, those surrender charges are pretty minimal. So getting out of those and switching into something else, it doesn't hurt so much. It might hurt a little bit, but it might be worth it. But it does make it easier. It does make it easier to pull the trigger on that if it looks like it's going to make a lot of sense. I'm still sticking with my National Life one, even though the cap rate has come down. I think the cap rate's close to 9% now in my National Life. It was 11.75 3 years ago when I started it, or 2 years ago when I started it. So I'm not too happy about being at the 9%, but I'm averaging over 10%. So hopefully those rates will go back up here soon. And, you know, if I still hit 9% max, I'm okay with that. We might have a down year, in which case the cap won't matter. The cap only matters if you have a nice big up year. So we shall see how it goes. But I'm pretty happy with the rate of return so far on those policies. My Allianz policies that I have the uncapped options. So hoping for big returns in that one. Definitely a good opportunity there. Those are with volatility indexes though. So you don't just get the uncapped S&P with a high participation rate. In this case, we get volatility indexes that have 150% participation rate is what I got. The current rate is 135% for that same 40% bonus option. But it's a heck of a deal to not have caps, to get the really high participation rate, and to have a bonus available on top of that. Really, really good opportunity for growth. So I'm pretty happy with those. So hopefully that answered your question well enough, CDG. Let me know if you got any other questions there about those. You tend to not. You'll have to read your paperwork to see what the new cap rates are. It should be included in your paperwork when you get your renewal. I just got my renewal, but I didn't really go through the paperwork yet. So I didn't look to see where it's at as far as where they notify you of the cap changes. They may email it out too. Not exactly sure. But you can always check with your agent too. So you can always check with me if you're unsure of what the cap rate currently is as your renewal date comes up. Chevy Guy, in your situation with 457, 401k, and pension, would it be financially sound decision to borrow from the 457 or 401k plan to purchase a second home? The loan is repaid in 5 to 15 years depending on your choice. It can be, yeah. So here's the deal. When you take a loan from your 401k or your 457, you're pulling it out of whatever investments you have it in. So you need to determine, maybe you have it all in one thing, maybe it's mixed up. Okay? If it's mixed up, you could pull it out of whatever your safest investment is that pays you the least amount. The ones that are not meant to be very risky, but they're also not going to return very much. Because whatever interest rate you take your loan at, you're going to pay that back to your policy. So let's say you had some bonds that were set up at, 4 or 5%. Average return, what you can expect. Or maybe you're getting less than that. Something that offset your account in order to give it less exposure to the aggressive part of the market, right? Well, you could take a loan from that, and you'll probably have about a 5% interest rate. I know the last time I took a loan from a 401k, we paid about 5%, just over 5%. So I'm paying that 5% back into my 401k. So you get that back. So I don't have any issues borrowing from it. You just got to make sure that it makes sense compared to what you have it invested in. So if the market drops 50% tomorrow, maybe you don't want to pull it out at that time, because you're going to pull it out and sell whatever you were in at half price. You're going to sell it at half price. Presumably you're going to take a while to pay it back, and the money's not going to be back in there to buy it back in before it goes back up. So you don't want to miss out on that. If there's a big drop, you don't want to miss out on the upside that tends to happen within the next year. Usually we get a big drop in 1 year, it'll come back up the next year or the next 2 years. It usually doesn't take much longer than that. So that would be what I would look out for. But as long as you have that plan in place and you realize that you're paying yourself back at whatever percent you get to borrow from, it can work great. You don't have to ask permission to borrow from yourself, and the payments back are a little bit flexible. A little bit flexible. You got to be careful. Oftentimes you'll have it just come right out of your check, but you've got to make those payments back at least quarterly. And there's some penalties if you miss that. So Northwest Pearl, good evening. What's up, cash flow fam? He says hit the like button. Yeah, be sure to hit the like button on your way in. Check it on your way out and hit it again if you hadn't. So, who else do we have on here today? Anybody got questions, or are you guys all doing groovy? Everything's going good in your portfolios. You know how to do dynamic banking. You're practicing it already in your financial situation. James, how's it going? Good evening. Do all of you guys know what dynamic banking is? Dynamic banking is like the whole reason I started this channel. The whole reason I started this channel was to spread the news about dynamic banking and what it can do to maximize your cash flow. So put in the comments section, put it in the chat. Let me know, yes or no. Do you know what dynamic banking is? And if you do, are you practicing it? And if you're not, and you know what it is, what's holding you back? James doesn't know what it is. Okay. Lazaro, you know what it is. All right. Good, good. So dynamic banking, Chevy guy doesn't know what it is. Okay. So dynamic banking is basically the process of how we move our money. How we move our money efficiently. With dynamic banking, the concept behind it is to take every single dollar that flows through our hands and put them to work doing more than one job. Okay? We always want them to do more than one job. That's how we increase our efficiency. And the easiest way to do that is by utilizing lines of credit and credit cards, especially rewards credit cards. But with a line of credit and a rewards credit card, you can do wonders by practicing dynamic banking. Hey, Bobby, how's it going? Good evening. So, I would urge you to check out my videos on dynamic banking. One of them is called Beat the Bank. That one tells you about it. That basically tells you about the concept. And then I've got dynamic banking in action, which shows you exactly how it works with offsetting interest. You kind of have to sleep. Oh, 319. Oh, okay. Whereabouts are you at? Lazaro, you have your personal line of credit, using it to fund your policy. Awesome. Good deal. So you're already practicing it. The Netherlands. All right. Well, it's late for you. Well, check out my videos. Check out my videos on dynamic banking tomorrow. You may have something available. I know some other countries already do something automatically. Some of the banks automatically offset interest charges for you. So in the UK, I think this is a thing. If you have a mortgage with your bank and you have money in the savings account with your bank, they will automatically reduce the balance. They'll automatically reduce the balance by what you have in savings, thereby saving you interest on these extra dollars that you have in your policy or in your account. Now, they may not reduce it 100% though. I don't know what the exact situation is in a lot of the places overseas, but that's essentially what we're doing with dynamic banking, is we're trying to offset interest charges with every dollar that flows through our hands. And it's awesome for people to be able to do it. It's incredible if you're a business owner, because businesses have a ton of money that flow through their hands. Tiger says, fellowships usually don't deduct tax initially. Can that money be used to max fund the whole life insurance quickly, then borrow the money to pay tax at the end of the year? Will it make sense to borrow? Absolutely. It's just like a business owner. I have a video on that, how to fund your life insurance policy or your infinite bank with a 401k. In that case, as a business owner, you get all the money first. before you pay taxes with it, right? Before you withhold any taxes. You get that. You can put that into your policy and then withdraw it out, essentially funding your policy with pre-tax dollars. And then when you borrow it out, you can put it into your 401k. Or you can pay your taxes with it at that point. But your dollars are doing multiple jobs in that case. Because your life insurance policy works just like a line of credit. So you can treat your policy like a line of credit in order to do dynamic banking. Now, I prefer to have an actual line of credit. And the reason I prefer to have a line of credit is because if you get a line of credit with the place where you have your checking account, you can usually transfer the money between accounts in seconds. All right, good night, Nick. We'll see you later. You can transfer the money between your line of credit and your checking account instantly. Just hop on. So every single dollar that comes into your hands, that goes into your checking account, you can move it into your line of credit to offset interest charges right away. If you're using your life insurance policy, it takes at least a couple of days to get the money in and a couple of days to get it out. Some insurance carriers are slower, so it might take a few days to put it in and 6 or 7 or 10 days to pull the money out. You're losing all of that time to offset interest charges in that instance. So my preference is to use a line of credit, and that way you don't have to, basically you can take advantage of every single day to offset the interest. And then you can take from your line of credit to fund your policy or to put it in your policy and offset the charges in your policy. A way that you can do it because you don't have to do it so quickly. So I love working with both of those together to make that work. Northwest, would it be smart to hold off till last minute doing taxes this year in case the new administration slams down some serious tax breaks due to COVID? Not likely. Not likely. I can't imagine that they would come out with any tax breaks that would affect the prior year. Most likely any tax breaks that they would put into effect will only affect next year. So I would say no, but I mean, it could always be advantageous if you have those tax dollars working for you. So if those tax dollars are working for you, there's no reason to give them to the government before you have to, because you're going to lose that opportunity to have them working for you, right? So if you're using them to offset interest charges, offset those interest charges as long as you can. If you're using them as an investment, if you're using them to grow money, grow that money as long as you can before you go pay your taxes. That's the way I would look at it. Now, there might be reasons to do your taxes early. I need to do my taxes early because I need to have a tax return that shows a nice, healthy income so that I can then get mortgages and do my real estate investments. My last year's tax return, I basically took so many deductions that it didn't really show much income. And so between last year and the year before and all the deductions I did there, I don't show enough income. So it makes it hard for me to get my home equity line of credit back. But I can get my home equity line of credit back as soon as I show some income. So this year I'm going to be paying a lot of taxes. And then hopefully I'll be able to do whatever I need to do for loans this year. And then then I could go back to saving all my taxes from there. Tiger, how will the loan amount be paid back? Meaning that you have to stop your investments to pay back the policy. Yes. Presumably, if you take money out of your policy, you're doing it because you're putting it into investments that are going to earn a higher rate of return than what you're going to have to borrow. So if that's the case, every once in a while, you just take a little bit and pay your loans back. If you just cover the interest cost each year, the interest cost in your policy is not going to compound, but the growth in your policy will compound. So that's what I do. I just make sure I pay the interest cost each year. If I pay the interest each year, I can have all that money borrowed out and I have it working for me outside of the policy. From the time frame point of view, you're essentially at the same point. Yeah, not quite. It depends on how your investments are doing. But like I said, you just want to make sure you at least cover the cost of the interest. If you cover the cost of the interest, Your policy is going to continue to compound in the background, but the loan you borrowed against it is not. BDUSA, how you doing this evening? Chevy Guy, curious to see if the Biden administration is going to move forward with school loan forgiveness. That will be interesting. I would expect that they would do at least some. It just makes a lot of sense, but it makes a lot of sense to unburden that generation that is really burdened with student debt. However, they would also have to do something at the same time to rein in the cost of college. Because if you don't do that, it's not going to help. It's only going to help some people right there at that time, and then it's everybody else following behind is still going to be in the same position. So those two things have to come together, and I don't know how quickly they're going to be able to come up with those solutions. So I'm not holding my breath on it, but hopefully they will move forward with something in that regard. BDUSA, what's the gain tax for short-term stock gain? Depends on where you live. It depends on how much you make as well. It could be 0%. It could be up to 15 or 20%. Dimitar, hello. You sold Tesla shares at $6.50. Bottom at $4.24, but you feel you made a mistake. Now you're waiting, but the stock goes more and more up. Greetings from Russia. Greetings. It'll come back down. You sold at $6.50. That's cool. I mean, I don't expect it's going to keep going up. We'll probably see the biggest dip after the S&P inclusion beginning of next week, would be my guess. Maybe tomorrow. I don't think we've seen the low point yet when we got back down to 617. I don't think we've seen the low point yet. However, some things working against us as we go into the end of the year. We've still got benchmark index funds that need to pick up some shares in order to get delta against the S&P 500. And you're also going to have funds that are going to be doing some window dressing, which means they're going to be buying some Tesla stock right at the end of the year so that it shows up in their reports to clients so that they can tell clients, yeah, look, we had this hot stock Tesla. You're not missing out on anything. That's what they call window dressing. They didn't own the stock and get all the gains from it earlier in the year. Nobody tends to ask when they bought the stock. They just know it's in the portfolio. Alan just came in, heard tax, thought of a question. If you sell your stocks the first year, how much tax will you pay? You don't know if you talked about this, but that's your question. Oh, are you talking about if you sell your stocks within the first year, you pay whatever your normal income tax rate is. If you hold your stocks for longer than a year, any gains you realize on those, you pay the long-term capital gains tax rate. The short-term capital gains tax rate is just your basic standard income tax rate. Northwest, that's what you're trying to do. You got to have 2 years for your self-employed income in order for it to be counted. Yep, this year is the year. Almost no deductions this year too. I hear you, and it's going to be painful. It's going to be painful. Please make some content on real estate, rental properties, etc. What's your thoughts on roof stock? I don't know what roof stock is, so I haven't looked into that. I don't do a whole lot of content on real estate because it's not my area of expertise. I do listen to a ton of podcasts on it, and I'm about to get into some real estate investing. When I do get into some real estate investing, I'll make some videos on that. But until then, I probably won't do any content on it just because I'm not speaking from a place of experience. And I kind of like to speak from a place of experience. The closest you get is the videos where I've done a comparison between whole life insurance and real estate, how it's like real estate. Those are really good. So if you're interested in seeing if that's intriguing at all, check those out. But they work very similarly. Chevy Guy, do you think they'll go based off loan amount or based on income? In other words, if you make a certain amount, you don't qualify for forgiveness. Who knows? Time will tell. Oh, so this is based on the student loans. My guess is it will be both. It'll be based on your income, and you'll only get a certain amount of forgiveness. So I don't think they'll go based off the loan amount per se, but you'll get up to a certain amount forgiven. Could be $10,000, could be $50,000. Those are the numbers that I've heard bandied about. I know Biden was on the $10,000 train. Kamala was on the $50,000 train. Most of the people supporting student loan forgiveness on the Democratic side were on the 50,000 plus train. So hopefully it ends up being around that much, because that's what we really need to get the burden off of our young folks. But like I said, at the same time, you can't just have the forgiveness without fixing the underlying problem, which is the skyrocketing cost of college. And that won't address it at all. So maybe the bill itself will address that. You got to hope so. BDUSA, what's the prediction tomorrow for Tesla? Today it held pretty good. It was supposed to be a bloody Wednesday, but didn't go that way today. So the thumbnail I used for today was, will Tesla's Wednesday woes continue? My assumption was that they would, but I wasn't sure. So that was what I put in it. It turns out they didn't. We ended up with a slightly positive day, or was it just basically straight sideways from open? Let me double check that. So, Tesla, yeah, not straight sideways, but... Oh, hang on a second. There we go. Yeah, we ended up on the day, less than a percentage point. So it was almost straight sideways. So it wasn't too much. Yeah, 645 close. 646 I think I have here on Robinhood. It's probably somewhere right between that. Or maybe it went up to 646 right after, something like that. It's hard to tell on Robinhood. So my expectation is that we'll gap down tomorrow morning. We'll gap down. I don't know where it'll start out. My expectation is that we will see a drop. I don't know if it'll happen at the beginning or if it'll happen at the end. Hey, Poker Paparazzi, long time no hear. Happy holidays to you too. Happy holidays. Good to hear from you. Good to hear from you. Just about have you guys all done up. Just about have you guys closed. So I hope things have been going well for you. Yeah, fingers crossed, BD. Alan, another question. If you're negative in stocks, which you're lucky not, do you still pay taxes or only pay when you get a gain? Yeah, you only pay when you get a gain. You only pay when you get a gain. And you only pay if you sell it and you have the gain. So if you get some losses, there's a thing called tax loss harvesting that you can try and do. It's kind of complicated, but it works good for maximizing your tax loss deductions when it comes to your stocks. But any losses that you have will offset any gains that you have that year as well. So definitely it's going to be helpful to have that offsetting. Sovan, how's it going? My man. Chevy Guy, thanks for joining our cash flow community. Welcome. Welcome. Like the green name and the badge. The green name and the badge. Am I doing a live tomorrow morning? Yes. Yeah, I do live stream every morning when the market's open. So we'll do at least 2 hours. I get up extra early. I get up at 6 a.m. I get up before 6 a.m. my time. I usually get up at 5 or 4 so I can read up on everything, check out where the stocks are at, and then we start our live stream at 6 a.m. my time. That way I can do the live stream for a couple hours and then get to work. So that's my day in a nutshell. Yeah, see you in the morning. See you in the morning. Happy holidays to you too. Chevy Guy, likewise up at 6 a.m. SoCal. Yep, we got to be up early if we want to trade the market. And I'm having a blast doing that. Having a blast, having success. So it's a lot of fun for me to spend the first couple hours of my day with all of you fine folks. Good times. Good times. Oh, so back to dynamic banking real quick. Beyond the line of credit, the other key aspect is to utilize a credit card, preferably a rewards card. And the reason we do that is because every dollar that comes into our hands, we're putting into our line of credit to offset interest charges. We want to offset those interest charges as long as possible. How do we do that? We do that by charging everything that we can throughout the month on a credit card. Because as long as we pay that credit card off each month, we get interest-free use of that money for 30 to 50 or 60 days. So, if we're taking dollars that come into our hands, we're offsetting interest charges in our line of credit, and then we can wait 30 to 60 days before we have to pay that bill and those interest charges, and then we pull that money out of our line of credit to pay off that credit card. We've just reduced our average daily balance for a long time. We utilize that free money, we offset interest in our line of credit, and we end up saving a whole bunch of money each month. And all of those savings continue to add up because we're going to take those chunks of savings and we're going to throw it at other debts. We might throw it at a mortgage. We might throw it at an auto loan. We might throw it at a personal loan or another credit card that we didn't pay off and it has a high interest, right? That's how we reduce our debts really fast. The other thing we can do, if we don't have debts to reduce really fast, we can put it towards our investments. We can use those chunks to fund our life insurance policies. We can use those chunks to buy some Tesla stock, right? And we're using other people's money to do that. By offsetting those interest charges, try and get down close to zero, we're able to use other people's money right off the bat without having to wait for that to get saved up. So it's an awesome concept. That's dynamic banking. If you're not familiar with it, do check out my videos, Beat the Bank and Dynamic Banking in Action. I also have a few other dynamic banking ones where I go through specific illustrations and plans on how people can pay down their debts. And so we'll go through paying off a mortgage and a car and some credit cards. And you can pay off mortgages in 5 to 7 years if you have enough cash flow. So if you have enough cash flow and we maximize that cash flow, that is the key. Chevy Guy, do that with your American Express Platinum. Works great with the benefits that come with it. Awesome. Yeah, we always want to do it with rewards card. If we're going to be putting as many of our expenses onto a credit card as possible, you might as well get that 1 to 2 or 3% reward on it. Why not? Those are savings that add up just as much as offsetting interest charges. Jones, who was the originator of dynamic banking, also known as velocity banking? I have no idea. No idea. But yeah, it is the same thing as velocity banking. When I decided to do this channel, it looked like velocity banking was copyrighted. So I thought I would just come up with a different name. I call it dynamic banking. I'm the only one that calls it dynamic banking. Now, one of the big differences though is the people that do velocity banking charge a lot of money for software that will help you do your dynamic or help you do your velocity banking. Or they'll charge you money to help you come up with a plan for it. But I don't do that. I do dynamic banking. I call it dynamic banking, and I give this stuff out for free. You don't need any special software, in my opinion. All you need to do is you have to understand how money works. Dimitar, Mr. Oregon, you have another question. What do I think about NEO? Is it worth to invest money in that? I like NEO a lot. I think NEO is poised to break out next year. They broke out this year quite a bit and went up a lot, but there's a lot of room to grow. You've got NEO as a major player in the largest EV market in the world that has massive subsidies and massive investments from the government. That's hard to beat. That's hard to beat. So there's tons of room to grow. I expect that'll grow pretty quickly. I like NEO and I like XPeng. Ticker symbol XPEV. I like both of those. Those are both very good. Very good. Let's see. Top Gun, how did plastic work? Oh, plastic worked great. So I used plastic this last month. Plastic.com, P-L-A-S-T-I-Q. Plastic.com. I used my credit card to fund my life insurance policies. So with plastic, if you get a bill and you have an invoice, you can use that, you can submit that invoice and pay it with a credit card. So I have a 0% credit card. I was able to charge it and pay my life insurance premium with it. And then I was able to borrow that money back out of my life insurance policy. So I was able to turn it into cash. Worked really good. And plastic charges you 2.9%. 2.9%. Every once in a while, they'll come up with a special offer, though. So if you use it, don't use it for a few months, they may throw out a special offer where they'll only charge you a 1% fee to pay a bill with it. And you can pay mortgages, you can pay car payments, a bunch of things that you might not normally be able to pay with a credit card. You can do it with plastic. Not usually a good idea because it adds, almost 3% to the cost of what you're doing. But in my case, I had a 0% credit card. I've got 0% for the next year. So by doing it that way, now I essentially paid 3% to use that for the next year. That's pretty cool. I can do a lot with that money. So I put that money into the policy, I borrowed it out again, and I can use that to trade in the market and make way more than 3% return. Even if I'm being super conservative with it, which I don't tend to be super conservative. So as long as you're making money though, it can make a lot of sense. Waka Waka, hello, Alibaba being investigated. Watch out. Oh really? Hadn't heard about that. Interesting. Top Gun, thank you for the tip, my man. Much appreciated. Jones asks, where did you learn velocity banking from, book or person? Both. Both. So when I heard about the concept, I heard about it from Denzel Rodriguez. And he's got a great YouTube channel. He talks about it in depth. You could pay to participate, but he goes through it in depth so much you can learn everything you need to know just from watching his YouTube videos. They're really good. He offers his services and charges folks if they're interested in getting specific help to do the dynamic or to do the velocity banking. But he puts out so much information that you could do it for free if you just watch his videos on how to do it. So it's a really good opportunity. When you put out enough information, kind of like I do, where it tells you how it works, and you spell it out, and you show different plans, it's real easy for people that are able to do it to just have enough information that they can do it. So that was where I first was introduced to it. And from there, I went and I watched everybody that talks about it, and I even read the books about it. So a lot of different things out there on it, but that's where I got all of the information down so that it's like second nature for me now. Tiger, what brokerage accounts do you use for stock investments? I have Robinhood, Webull, and TD Ameritrade. I love Robinhood for the options. It's really easy for someone who's starting out doing options to know what you're doing and to be able to understand and see if it's a profitable trade that you're doing and what type of options trade you're doing, if you're doing multiple legs and things like that. So Robinhood, I really, really like it for options. Webull, I have my retirement account in there, and I have a small regular account in there. But what I like Webull for is all the data that you get from it. Webull has awesome charts, all of the indicators, they have all the news items, they have all of the financial informations, they link to all of the financials on all of the companies. It is a great source for data, and they're open longer than almost every other brokerage out there. They're open from 4 a.m. Eastern Time to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So you got 14 trading hours throughout the day. Unfortunately, TD Ameritrade only goes from 7 a.m. Eastern Time until 8 p.m. So I miss out on 3 hours of trading with my TD Ameritrade account, which kind of sucks. I kind of like that account, although it's a challenge for me to learn. It's a challenge for me to learn to see if my options are profitable in that one. It's definitely harder to understand when you're doing spreads and stuff. But I do like buying and selling stocks in that one. They execute pretty fast. It feels like they probably execute just a little bit faster than Robinhood does if you're just buying stocks. So I like all three of those ones. Webull executes really fast as well. Haven't had a problem with Webull. The thing I really like about Robinhood and Webull, no cost to the trades. TD Ameritrade, there's a little bit of a cost to the trades. So each option I buy comes with a 65-cent per contract cost. And sometimes I buy a lot of contracts. So that can really take a hit. It can really add up. Waka, the news just broke. All right, I'm going to have to check that out. Have I ever shared my portfolio holdings? Yes. Yeah, so I basically share my trades in our Discord group and specifically in our mastermind group. So if you join our Patreon or you join as a member of the channel, that gets you access to our Discord, but there's different levels that you can join as. You can get into our Discord for $1 and you get into all the channels where everybody's at and they talk stocks and we do technical analysis in there and breaking news. It's a great place to do discussions when the live stream is not on. And then there's the second level, which is our cash flow community. Maximize your cash flow community, which gets you into the dynamic banking and the infinite banking channels, which we don't have a whole lot of folks in those channels yet, but when we do, my hope is that those conversations will become productive and people will be able to talk to each other about how those work and how they're using them, so that we can basically share different ideas on how to do things better. And then we have, that one's $5 a month, so really inexpensive to get in. Then I've got our $50 a month option, which gets you into our mastermind group in there. That one, the reason I jumped up to $50, it's not very much. $50 a month is not very much, but you get into a smaller community that we've got people that are basically committed to helping each other do better financially. That's what a mastermind group's all about. So we want to trade stocks, stock ideas, trade ideas, taxes, how to save on taxes, real estate investment opportunities that come up, anything really. Anything that will help us financially, that's the group that we're going to develop that as. So those are our three different levels with our Patreon. And that's where you get access. In that third level, that's where I share my portfolio. Tiger, which banks are good for dynamic banking? Your bank does not offer that for credit cards. Is personal line of credit more flexible in that context? Your bank doesn't offer what for credit cards? I'm definitely talking about lines of credit, personal lines of credit to use for dynamic banking. And it can be a personal line of credit, it can be a home equity line of credit, it can be a business line of credit. If you're going to do dynamic banking for your business, I highly recommend a business line of credit, because you'll be able to funnel all of the business dollars through it and take the most advantage of it. And it'll be the easiest to track when doing your books. But a personal line of credit or a home equity line of credit are great for your personal side. And almost every bank offers those. So if you can't get one of those through the bank you currently check with, find out where you can get a line of credit and then move your checking account to that bank. That way you can move money back and forth right away. The reason for the credit cards is because you just get to, every time you pay that credit card off each month, doesn't cost you anything to use the money for that whole time. So that's how we use our credit cards. Chevy Guy, would you recommend going in with 5% or 20% down on a second home? Pros versus cons. You're kind of leaning towards less down to keep your money working for you, not tied up on the down payment. Thoughts? Okay, so a big factor when you're trying to determine 5 or 20% is what other costs are involved. Oftentimes, you'll have to have mortgage insurance. And if you have to have mortgage insurance, might not be worth it to go in with 5% down. It depends on if you can eventually ditch that mortgage insurance or if it's going to be permanent on your loan. If it's an FHA loan, your mortgage insurance is likely permanent for the life of the loan. You won't ever be able to get rid of it until you refinance. If it's a private loan, if it's private mortgage insurance, It may go away, or you may have the opportunity to have it go away when you bring that equity over 20%. So if that's the case, I would say, what would you be doing with that extra 15%? If you have a plan to earn a greater amount than what it's costing you in that mortgage, absolutely go with a 5% down. Put that money to work for you. If you don't have a plan, or you're not sure, maybe just put the 20% down. I mean, you're going to be in a better position when it comes to the house, and you're not paying interest on it. So you got to decide how much are you able to make that money work for you, rather than giving it to the bank and tying it up as equity. Tiger, your retirement account means long-term holdings. My retirement, I have a Roth. I have a Roth IRA, so that's what's in my Webull. I can't trade options in it, so I do still do some swing trades with it. I don't have any long-term holdings. I'm just bouncing around to whatever stock I think is going to give me the most return. And so far, I'm up 50% on the year. And I only started it 5 months ago. So I'm doing pretty good. I started with 6,000, and I'm right at 9,000 in that account right now. Jones, FYI, believe the original source concerning velocity banking is Harj Gill. That sounds right. While he was living in Australia, came out with a book, How to Own Your Homes Years Sooner and Retire Debt Free. That I recognize that name. I think you're right. And I did not read his book. I didn't read his book. But I remember hearing about him in some of the podcasts that I listened to. Or it might have even been in one of the books that I read. For credit cards, there's a cash advance fee. Yeah, you're not doing a cash advance. And if you use plastic.com, there's no cash advance fee. Well, it's lower than a cash advance fee. Plastic.com will do it for 2.9%. You can do that for your car loan. You tried to do that for your car loan, and they said they can't do that directly. They have to cash advance in your checking account, and then you can pay it to loan. Yeah, not with plastic. All right, good night, Bobby. Not with plastic. If you use plastic, you just have to have your invoice or your bill, and you'll be able to make a loan payment. Now, it depends on what credit card you have. Not all credit cards will allow it, but on Plastic's site, it'll tell you if it's allowed. So have you gotten on plastic.com before? If you haven't, I can give you a referral code. I don't even know if they're giving anything for referrals right now. They used to give some discounts for referrals. The last one that I'm doing now, it looks like they give a referral if it's a business that I refer. I mean, it looks like they give you a discount if it's a business that's signing up. I don't know if it'll give it to just anybody. But I highly recommend check out plastic.com. Okay, you're familiar. Good. Is the Roth still desired when one has a whole life insurance, IUL, etc.? For me, it is, yeah. I love the Roth because I want to do day trading. And if I can day trade in a Roth, I don't have any of the short-term tax consequences. And I can make way more money day trading in a Roth than I can with my money in my life insurance or IUL. Now, I like a whole life insurance and I like an IUL. I have large policies in both of those. But I borrow from those policies at a low interest rate, 5 or 6%, and I put that into my money, into my trading accounts. In fact, that was how I funded my Roth. I took $6,000 out of one of my life insurance policies. I funded my Roth, and then I day trade with it. And I'm up 50%. So I'm paying 5% on the money I borrowed out of my policy, and I turned it into a 50% gain. Yeah, I'm day trading in my Roth. Yep. And I'm doing that on Webull. Now, day trading is not for everybody. So I'm not recommending that you should do that. it's very hard to make money at that way. Most people lose money day trading, okay? So you got to be careful. It's always best to dollar cost average into a company that you like. Always best to just dollar cost average. Don't do day trading. You'll probably make more money. Most people make more money by just dollar cost averaging, okay? I'm actually doing pretty good, but I have the time to dedicate towards it. I do 2 hours every day. And not only do I do 2 hours every day, but I have a whole community. We get 200 viewers that give me their tips and share their tips in our chats, in our live stream, about what stocks we should look at. So that has absolutely helped me get my gains that I need. So when we have a community where we can discuss these things, I definitely think it increases our ability to be profitable as day traders or swing traders. Let's see. That's what you were thinking. It will hurt the taxes. Yes, it will hurt the taxes if you're doing day trading in a taxable account. And I am. I started out doing it in a day trade, in a taxable account. Because I can only fund a Roth at $6,000 max for the year. So I need to fund one for my wife, actually. I just need to make sure I actually can fund one this year, because I may have too high of an income this year to be able to do that. So I got to find out. So I funded mine this year, and I might have to pull it out if I made too much money. But my plan is I'll take just enough deductions so that I can still fund my Roth and I don't have to worry about it. Chevy Guy, have you heard of what I've heard people refer to as a backdoor IRA for those who do not qualify for a Roth IRA due to income? Yep. Yeah. Not sure if backdoor IRA is even a thing. It is. It's called the backdoor Roth IRA, not just a backdoor IRA. The IRA, there's no reason for a backdoor on it. It's not after-tax money. You do have a limit on what you can put into it, but it's the same limit as what you put into your 401k. And you can move money from your 401k to an IRA, so there's no need for a backdoor. But there are backdoor Roths in where you take money from your IRA or your 401k and you convert it into after-tax dollars, and that you can put into your Roth. Or in the case of an IRA, maybe with a 401k too, you can just contribute after-tax dollars to those and then switch them over to the Roth. So there's different ways you can do it. And I'm not the expert on those. I just have a thin understanding of how those all work. I have not done it myself. Tiger says, wait, you mentioned you're doing day trading in a Roth as well, right? Yep. I'm day trading. I day trade in all of my brokerage accounts. Yes, 6K is the limit, but I day traded to increase the gains. So yeah, I put in 6,000 and I've got it up to 9,000 already. And it's been 4 or 5 months. September 1st, I think, is when I funded it. September, October, November, December. 4 months. So it's been 4 months. And I'm up 50%. So that's pretty solid. Chevy, my understanding is you can't get a Roth IRA if you make more than a certain amount of income per year. Yeah. Yeah, typically it's if you make more individually, if you make more than like 90,000, or as a couple, a married couple, if you make more than 180,000. So I'm guessing I'm going to be over that this year. And hopefully with my deductions, I'll bring it underneath and I'll be okay. I've had a really good year, though. I've had a really good year. Yeah, day trading in the Roth is awesome. Even if you can day trade in a regular retirement account, that's still good because you don't have to worry about the day-to-day taxes. I'm afraid of what that's going to do for my taxes this year, but we'll see. We'll see what it does. Because I do have some significant losses as I was learning how to do it effectively. So I haven't analyzed that yet. We'll see how that ends up. Plus, we'll see how the rest of this year ends up. It's possible that I do really well, even in my trading account, above and beyond making up for the losses that I took at the beginning. All right. Any other questions? I can feel my voice starting to go. I've been talking quite a bit today. But if you guys have any more, I'd like to stick around and answer any questions. But if there's no other questions that come up, then we will call it a night and we'll catch you in the morning. Chevy Guy, nice chatting with you too. Glad to have you. Make sure you get into the Discord. Check the membership area of my YouTube channel and you'll find the perks. And you'll get access to the Discord. Tiger, did I know Mass Mutual invested millions of dollars in Bitcoin? I did not know that. That's interesting. Good for them. Good for them. I have a Mass Mutual policy, so hopefully it's paying off. I expect if Bitcoin does real well, maybe I'll get a nice dividend next year. Mass Mutual came out with a lower dividend this year. They reduced their dividend from 6.2 down to 6%. Hey, Greg Smith, thanks. Thank you. Glad you can make it. So Mass Mutual reduced their dividend to 6% from 6.2. Guardian held their dividend the same, 5.65 last year, 5.65 again. And Penn Mutual went from 6.1% down to 5.75%. So a lot of reductions out there. It's been a tough year for insurance companies and really everybody else to make a profit. But, you know, you got to figure that's par for the course in the middle of a pandemic. And especially in this low interest rate environment. It's been a challenge. So it was nice to see, my biggest policies are with Guardian. It was nice to see Guardian keep theirs the same. Maybe they're trying to cover losses by having investment in Bitcoin. No, I wouldn't think they're doing it to cover any losses. I would think they're doing it because there's a high likelihood that if you can wait it out, it's going to be worth a lot of money. Insurance companies tend to invest with decades in mind. So if they look out and if they say, okay, in 30 years, Bitcoin's going to be worth, one Bitcoin might be worth $500,000, which is what some people are saying it might be in 5 years. An insurance company has 30 years. That's a pretty good investment. So they can put the money in and wait it out. Everything they do is like 30-year investment timelines. Usually it's laddering bonds and stuff. Greg Smith, cash makes no money sitting in a savings account these days. That's right. That's why I use my life insurance policies. That's the best thing about them, is you get to beat inflation, you get a higher rate of savings, plus you still have access to all the money. Tiger, 30 years, 500K plus. Could be. I'm thinking I might have to start dollar cost averaging into this when we start to see some dips. At least with a little bit. Can't hurt to put probably 1% of our portfolio in there. You're welcome. Good night. All right, I'm going to play you guys out with some music. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you again next Wednesday. We do this live stream every Wednesday where we talk about finances. So if you got any questions, you can put them in the chat here. You can also leave me questions in a voicemail on my website, OregonCashflowPro.com. If you leave me questions there and I play it here, I'm gonna give you a t-shirt for free. One of our t-shirts from our Teespring store. So if you want a t-shirt, go leave me a voicemail message that we can use in our Wealth Care Wednesday live streams. Greg Smith, do you use the real values to borrow against? What do you mean the real values? In your life insurance policies? In your life insurance policies, you'll use the cash value. In the IUL, it's the cash value that you're borrowing against. Yeah, I mean, if what you mean by real value is the cash value, the cash value is what's available to borrow against. Yep. And preferably with the proper design, after 4 or 5 years, you're going to pass that break even where you're going to have more in cash value than you put into it. Mary, thank you for joining our Patreon. And you joined the Maximize Cash Flow community. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you in the Discord. All right, good night, BDN. Thank you. All right, we will see you guys next week. Corey, have a good night. Jones, thanks. Pass, good night. We'll see you guys bright and early. I got to go watch some videos now and figure out what's going to happen tomorrow.